Well, we want to thank you for staying with us. We want to let you know the ongoing coronavirus pandemic has had a huge effect on business owners and employees, forcing some jobs to actually close down, employees actually having to take time off. And the question is, what kind of employment laws do you know about? How are you protected? And where do you go from here if you're an employee? Well, here to tell us and provide some more advice for us is the founding partner of the Boyd Law Group, Patrick Boyd. And Patrick, good to have you.
Thank you very much.
And as we've been talking, I've been telling people these are definitely unprecedented times with regards to employees and employers having to lay people off, and some employees really not knowing what their employment future is going to be like. Talk to us about where we are today.
Well, I'd like to say the most important thing that seems to be happening and that's really sort of noble to see is that there's been a lot of open communication between employers and employees. As you say, this is absolutely an unprecedented kind of impact upon local businesses, small businesses and large. And for the most part, we've been counseling our clients to talk to their employees about the need for continued work when it can be done, but also the need for understanding and flexibility with that workforce. So a lot of times there are opportunities for telecommuting, as an example, as a way for employees to continue to work and participate, but just not be in a place where perhaps they're going to infect other workers or where they're going to be worried about infecting other workers and then not as productive at work. A lot of times we're also seeing variable shifts. So perhaps instead of having 100% of a workforce come in for a day, 50% will come in one day, 50% will come in another. That allows for some social distancing in the workplace and still for the ability of everybody to get work done and continue to be productive and helping out. And there's been a lot of collaboration, and it's been a very positive kind of feedback that we've been getting from people so far. They're uniting and coming together to try to make this work for everybody.
Well, when you talk about coming together, that's a great thing. But one of the things about coming together is the paid leave laws, right? We're seeing people actually start to take advantage of the paid leave laws, and many will actually fall into this category. But can we walk through for a few minutes those people who are actually uh, may experience or having to deal with paid leave laws? What are the laws that are regarding paid leave?
Sure. Well, the simple answer is that a lot of the developments now are things that we're not sure of yet. Both Congress, the federal Congress, and the state legislature here in New York are debating on some new initiatives. The most likely scenario seems to be, and I don't have a crystal ball here, but the most likely scenario seems to be that there'll be some kind of paid leave available up to 30 days or so for employees, especially those who are infected or those perhaps for longer for those who are caring for family members or others that have been infected. These are not implemented laws. So at this point, what you're really dealing with is opportunities for unpaid leave under the FMLA, of course, if a family member is sick or other things like that. So I think the good news is that both the federal government and the state government are working hard to come up with initiatives, but we don't know exactly what those laws are going to look like yet. For the most part, I would tell you, obviously, that an employer right now who hears or learns that an employee is infected or might be infected is going to want that employee to quarantine just because they want to make sure they protect the others in the workforce. And that's probably the likely scenario for right at this moment. But I do expect that there will be some developments in terms of paid leave for people. We just don't know quite what those bills are going to look like or those laws are going to look like at this exact second.
Well, right now we're doing something kind of unique, right? We're working from home. It's called remote work, and
That's
there's a
right.
whole lot of people who are engaged in remote work. From teachers, students are engaging in in classes. Government is shut down; they're doing remote work. Everybody's doing remote work. What are the laws concerning remote work, and how are people protected there?
So absolutely, remote work is regular, full paid work. You should be paid for every dollar and every dime of time you put in working for your employer. And I think right now a lot of employers are embracing that idea and that option. And the employees are absolutely protected. They lose no job security by working remotely or anything of that stripe. And quite frankly, I think a lot of employers should be and hopefully are encouraging that remote work because things can still be done. Things can still be done well. Things can still be done in a responsive fashion. And at the same time, there's no risk of getting a workforce or your colleague or your coworker sick if you're working from home. Obviously, you got to wash your hands at home too and make sure you're minding your family. But that's a good accommodative plan that a lot of businesses have put in place, and it seems to be working, at least in the short term, quite well. I think as this continues to develop over longer times, it's going to get more complicated. But right now, I think working from home is working well, and employees have that right and that opportunity. And I think a lot of employers are encouraging that, which I think is great news.
Let's go to labor unions before we go. Talk to us about labor union laws and what exactly can we expect, and what are the laws, especially governing a time such as this?
Well, I think the interesting part of the union context is that there's a lot more opportunity for dialogue between union delegates or shop stewards or whatever and the particular employer. There's going to be individual contracts for each particular union that's going to govern what kind of policies might already control work from home or remote work or those kinds of things. And then there are already people in place as representatives of the union members and as representatives, of course, of the employer to talk through and figure out the best way to accommodate the larger workforce. I don't know that there's any particular legal change. There's just going to be a lot of individual contract changes that are going to impact those workers. Now, just to be clear, these legislative initiatives I talked about with Governor Cuomo and indeed with the Congress will impact the union workforce just like it will the private sector overall. But it's probably the case that the union workplace has a little bit more people tapped with the responsibility for negotiating this and figuring it out a little bit more quickly. And so hopefully those union workers will have representation that's able to advocate for a good solution and talk with management even more quickly than perhaps the private sector is able to do it.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to get more information. Patrick J. Boyd, who is the founding partner of the Boyd Law Group, want to thank you so much for being with us here on Open, giving us a little bit more about this. It is certainly a fluid situation, and as more things become available, certainly we'll be coming back to you, Patrick. Thanks much.
My pleasure. Have a great night.
All righty. Patrick Boyd, our guest here on Open. Want you to stay with us. We do have more show coming up right after this.